Hi everyone, welcome back to Swiss Home Garden. I'm Chitra. In this video, I will be taking you through our garden tour in the month of July. You will see us doing a lot of de-weeding because we have neglected our garden for the past couple of weeks. My husband was very busy with his business and I'm not much of a gardener, and plus my back doesn't permit me to do too much gardening. So let's get started. In the greenhouse there were some overgrown lettuces which we didn't harvest, and that I start to de-weed. And this here is the carrot. It's time for harvesting them because they've grown so dense that there's not enough space for the carrots to grow. So we have to harvest them. And there are a couple of bell peppers which are coming up. And this creeper here is the bitter melon. And there is a snake gourd creeper next to the bitter melon. And the other one, I'm not so sure, my husband also doesn't remember what it is, but it is one of these Indian exotic vegetables which we started to plant early on in April. There's also a pumpkin growing inside the greenhouse. Lettuce which has overgrown, and I will be de-weeding all of this. Our friend was also here visiting us over the weekend, and he helped me with the photographing and also a little bit de-weeding. Just beside this lettuces which I am de-weeding, there is also the Swiss chard. The weather has actually not been favorable this year. It was actually a cold summer this year so far, but it is changing now and it is getting warmer for the past couple of days. Here, my daughter has started to harvest all the carrots. She's on a summer vacation and we have planned not to go anywhere because we were away for a couple of weeks during the spring break in the month of April. And because of that, our garden was not very well planned and it has suffered a little bit. It was actually very difficult to get her to this point to come and help us out, and now she's been helping us regularly about an hour or so in the garden. These carrots have not grown that big. We will be planting them again in a different location. It doesn't have to be in the greenhouse. These were planted very early on, end of March, so they needed to be in the greenhouse. Now we will be planting them outside in the garden. Here my husband is removing out all the extra weeds. This is the onion patch we planted about a few weeks back. I got the saplings from one of the Indian shops, and these are the smaller varieties, and these are the small red onions. And he's also clearing up some of the overgrown weeds in the path. I shot this video about a couple of days back and it was getting quite warm, but actually you can see that he's still wearing a jacket. Just outside the greenhouse, this is a really wild patch. I try my best to do some de-weeding, but actually I'm not allowed to do too much in the garden. I was recently with a chiropractor and I really have a lot of problem with my back for the past few years. So she said just a little bit of light work in the garden, but not too heavy work. So I didn't want to stay too long, but I just had to inspire my daughter to help. So I was there just shortly, about half an hour in the garden. We planned to plant other plants there. This was the old spinach bed and there was also the Swiss chard, but now it is a really wildly overgrown patch. This is one of the beds. We haven't really planted much over there. We had planted cabbages last year, but this year somehow we didn't plant too many things. As I said, my husband didn't have too much time, so we planted a few lettuces and we have planted pumpkin and cucumber into this. We had already planted some cucumbers on the other side close to the stream, but they were all eaten up by the slugs. These were the only two which have kind of survived. The lettuce there is called Lolo Rosso. I don't know what it is called in English. This is what they call it here in Switzerland. I think it is Italian. Actually, it was quite nice to do some gardening there, all the three of us. This here is the celery bed, and this is also having a lot of wild overgrown weeds and grass. So he's just using this tool to remove the weed, and then it's easier to pull it out. Meantime, started to plan what to plant now to have a good harvest at least in autumn. This here is the butternut squash, which just planted it just on the heap of all the compost. So this butternut squash is thriving. And just behind the butternut squash are a few sunflower seeds. I think these are accidentally growing there. Inside the greenhouse, my daughter has harvested all the carrots and we can now see the Swiss chard and other vegetables clearly. My husband will clear up this whole patch and plant something else. I've already posted a recipe in this channel on how to cook Swiss chard. I will leave the link below in the description box. And just those lovely purple flowers are the aubergines, and just next to the aubergine is the bell peppers. We have already harvested one bell pepper. We are waiting that it grows a little bit bigger so we can harvest them. And there I see a few more flowers popping up. This one pumpkin. This lovely beautiful leaf, it belongs to the bitter gourd, and two of them have survived. But many of the seeds didn't come, which we had planted in April. We replanted them, but they're still not able to thrive. Maybe because it's too cold. It was not that warm this last few weeks. These tomato plants and creepers were just below the temporary greenhouse, and there are a few coming. Everything is a little bit late by a couple of weeks. The strawberry harvest was also delayed by 2 to 3 weeks. The sea buckthorn, there's a lot of it growing, so we should have a good harvest. This time I plan to make also some syrups. In these black bags we tried to plant some potatoes, but somehow they didn't come out because we had not really monitored the amount of moisture in it. So I think that was a big failure. And this plant here is the cherry tree. Unfortunately, we didn't get a good yield of the cherries, so we'll have to look into it. Next year at least we should be able to get a good yield, so we have to see what else we can do to prepare it. Probably we have to cover up with a net once it starts fruiting. That could be one of the reasons why there were not too many cherries. These plants here are the broccoli, and just beside it is a different variety of lettuce. The broccoli is in a really sorry state. So far we had not much luck with the broccoli. Just below the cherry tree are some potatoes. These were the different colored potatoes. This bush here is the red currant bush. We have harvested twice. We got a better yield this time. We got a little bit more than a kilogram, and I have made the jams with it. Last year I already posted a video, and you can also find it in my blog post. I will leave the link below in the description box. And some potatoes. So this just gives an overview. This is the main potato patch. We have planted again Charlotte variety. The sunflowers. This here is the strawberry patch. We had a really good harvest this year. Just recently, I posted 2 strawberry recipes. I will leave the link below in the description box. One was a jam, the other was an ice cream. We are now trimming them so that they will start flowering and fruiting by autumn. With the strawberries, once they finish their fruiting, it's good to trim them so that they will start growing new leaves and then give flowers, and then they will fruit in autumn too. That will be the second fruiting for this year. So I hope we can get a better yield. Last year we didn't do that, and still we did get a few strawberries. So in the meantime, he has finished de-weeding all the weeds in between the celery plants. Now moving on just towards the bridge, here we have one cucumber plant which has survived, and then we planted a few corns there. Actually, we have planted a lot more, but many of them were eaten up by the slugs. And then just here on this raised bed, I initially wanted to plant more herbs, but then we decided we will plant some flowers into it, so they should start flowering by August or so. These are some summer flowers. I got a few bulbs a few weeks back, and then we planted them. And the above raised bed, we trimmed all the rucola, so they will start branching out newly again. And these are the chives. We did actually cut them, but they started to come up again. And the other herbs are pretty much untouched, the sage and thyme and everything, and just next to it. I'll have to start actually harvesting them too. These are blueberry bushes. Actually, this year we have quite a good yield of these berries, but they are not as big as I would like them. As soon as they finish flowering, we immediately covered them up, and we are harvesting every day a little bit of the berries. This here is our hazelnut tree. We have actually a few hazelnut trees. Last year we had not many nuts because we had trimmed them really short, and now they're starting to come up. The problem is once they reach a certain height, I lose light in my bedroom window, so we had to cut them last year. And just next to the hazelnut is the elderberry bush, and from there we can harvest some of the berries. Now this part here is the garden shed, which has undergone a major transformation. We decluttered all of it there, and then we got this new grill, and sometimes we like to grill some maize and cheese and potatoes on it. We can just keep it below the shed. And those two are actually the compost cans which you got from our older apartment. This one here is the insect hotel. Actually, having a wide variety of insects help in maintaining a balance in our garden. These were the garlics which we harvested. We are drying them up just below the garden shed roof. My daughter here is harvesting some mint leaves, and they just grow so wild. These bushes are actually wild, and this one here are some onions. This was the extended raised bed just close to the stream, and we have harvested the garlic, and we are waiting to plant some more new stuff there. Let me take you for a walk along the Swiss countryside. These are rapeseed fields. These are the dinkel and the barley wheats. I shot this footage about a week or so back, and in the meantime, everything has been harvested. These are sugar beets and some maize. These are for the fodder. I don't think we can eat them. And I think below are some potato plants. I'm not very sure. Actually, it's because the farms are not that huge. They plant many things. And and then we have the wheat there. This is one variety of wheat, or I don't know if it is barley or spelt, I'm not very sure. And this is a farm and horse riding school there. My daughter used to go horse riding, and they have also harvested some of the grass. I hope you enjoyed watching this video, and thank you for watching. If you're new to my channel, consider subscribing. I post one new video every week on food from scratch, Swiss country living and our gardening experiences. Kindly hit that bell button to receive notifications for the latest videos I've uploaded. Until next time, bye-bye.